Hey, Topping and Life's Math Industry, and this is part 2 of exponential equations. So in the last video, we were doing an introductory lesson on exponential equations. But we've been also taking a look at this formula, y equals ab to the power of x, and also what the graphs have looked like. But what if I told you that sometimes this formula is going to look different on your next assignment or your next test? Sometimes your math teacher will make that formula look in different formats, but have the same kind of structure. This kind of new formula is the same, but it helps you visualize where to move things. So, right over here, we have what seems to be a very, very strange formula. Y equals a times b to the power of x minus h plus k. And when it says where it moves, it says that the letter h as a value moves the graph left and right. So it moves whatever this thing is, left or right, depending on the translation or the movement. The k moves the graph up and down. So if you take a look at the graph, it would simply move up or down. Hey, this reminds me of something. This formula looks very familiar because if you watched one of our previous videos, in the previous episodes, we've actually seen this kind of formula before. And sure enough, it does look like that formula. So we've been learning a lot about translating functions, where the function equals a parentheses x minus c plus d. What you put in the c value means you move the graph left and right. Whatever you put in the d value will make it up and down. But whatever you put in c is going to be the opposite. So if you say negative 6, we have a negative, it's going to actually be a positive 6. If we have a positive 7, negative plus 7 is going to be a negative 7. The same thing applies to the rule way up here. If h was negative 6, it would stay to become a positive 6. If it was a negative 7, it would become a positive 7. But when we say positive 6, if it's a positive 7 and a negative, it's a negative 7. So that is where a lot of kids get their tests mixed up and their test questions incorrect, because they always confuse the negative and the positive, just like we did right there. So yeah, the letter H, whatever you put in it, moves the graph left and right, and whatever you put in the K moves the graph up and down, which is very, very similar to this one. There's one more thing that we kind of have to know. That how do we know where the line's going to stop, or where it's going to go, and where is it supposed to be headed for? Because sure enough, these lines are going to last forever and ever until they stop. But the problem is, they're never going to stop. But there's another problem. They're trying to get somewhere. What they're trying to get to is actually very, very impossible. And it's a line. The line is called the asymptote. It's a very weird way to say it. So an asymptote is a line that reaches 0. It tries to reach 0, but it can never, ever, ever, ever get there. It also shoots towards infinity. So it's a line that marks where the line, or the curved line, is supposed to go, or where it wants to go, but it can never achieve it. For example, we can say right here that the asymptote is going to be this dotted line. The reason why it started is because this blue line, the exponential, for this equation, is never, ever, ever going to reach this red line. You can literally go to a microscopic app or a microscope and visualize all the lines, but you'll never ever see the blue line touch the red line. It's impossible. But we can say that the red line is the asymptote because that's what it's trying to get to, but it can never ever do that. So now we know all the definitions and the fundamentals for exponential equations. What we can do now is we can practice with them. So right here, what we have to do is understand the growth, decay, the movements, and what the asymptotes are. So let's start. So right here, there are 4 things we have to think about. We have our fraction. Is it growth or decay? Yeah, it's decaying itself. The next thing is, we'll take a look at the translations. We have an x minus 3. If we take a look at the positives, because we have a negative positive, it's gonna move to the right 3 units. It's also gonna move the graph up and down 7. Since it's a plus, we're gonna say move up 7. The last one's the easiest part. The 7 right here, this value, the k value, is going to represent the asymptote. That's where the line is going to be at what the 0 is going to be. So, the asymptote doesn't always have to be 0. It could be somewhere else, like way up here. But we can also assign an exponential function or equation and make it go down like this. But we'll still never ever, the black line will never ever reach the green line or even touch it. So right here, we can say that the asymptote, ASSM, is going to equal y equals 7. Because the asymptote is going to be a straight line. It's always going to be a straight line. Let's take a look at the next one. So right over here is different. Is it growing or decaying? Yes, it's growing. Because the value for a is greater than 1. We could also say we have negative. And when that happens, we are going to say it's going to move to the left 3 units. Since we have a plus 4 on the k value, we could say move up by 4. But what about the 4 as an asymptote? ASSM is going to equal y equals 4. So it's going to be at a different asymptote. A different line on the graph. I hope this video has helped you understand all about the fundamentals of exponential equations. Thank you for watching Taoping Airlines Math Industry. Like and subscribe!